Friday, October 10th, Putin made yet another massive mistake, and now 500,000 Russians are paying the price for it. He launched a massive attack against energy power plants in Kyiv. Zelensky had already warned Putin that Moscow will be blacked out if Russia attacks Ukrainian cities. Well, that's exactly why the Ukrainian response was swift and decisive. Now, 500,000 Russians don't have any electricity to survive winter. But you see, the Ukrainian response did not just stop there. Ukraine sent more drones 1,000 miles inside Russia to destroy one of Russia's biggest refinery that Putin actually thought was out of Ukraine's range. This strike was a message to Kremlin. Nowhere in Russia is safe if Putin continues to attack Ukrainian citizens. But now Russian propagandists are so mad that they're demanding money from Europe for damages the Ukraine is doing to Russian economy. I think they're forgetting that it's Russia who started this war. But anyways, we start on October 10th. It was one of the most terrifying nights for Ukrainian civilians all across the country. Russia launched 465 drones and 30 missiles, including Kinzhal and Iskander ballistic missiles. They targeted major cities like Kyiv, Zaporizhia, Kryvyi, and Sumy. Luckily, Ukrainian defenders were able to shoot down 90% of Russian drones and missiles. But unfortunately, ones that got through dealt devastating damage to residential buildings and civilian infrastructure. In the capital of Kyiv, you can see the strike taking out electricity for thousands and thousands of residents. In Kyiv, 12 people were injured during the attack and half of the city was left without power. In Zaporizhia, a 7-year-old boy died and 11 more were injured. And in Sumy, a dozen more people were injured. I guess one can argue that we should expect attacks like these because every time Russia fails on the battlefield, it turns to terror. It starts destroying Ukrainian power plants, water systems, and critical infrastructure. Now, according to international law, these strikes are illegal. But according to Russian TV, these strikes are humanitarian in nature because Putin's goal is to save Ukrainian citizens from Zelensky. I could not believe it when I first heard it, so you guys listen to it yourself.
Russia has launched large-scale attacks on Ukraine's power grid. Their goals are to make Zelensky aware of the existing realities and to bring peace as soon as possible. And rather, bring peace closer. Of course, in this regard, Russian missile and drone strikes targeting critical infrastructure essential to Ukraine's military and state administration are humanitarian in nature. Because the sooner peace comes, the more Ukrainian citizens' lives we will save. We will save more lives of ordinary citizens of Ukraine.
Well, by this logic, Zelensky should get a prize because he just delivered the biggest humanitarian aid Russia has ever received. First package arrived in Moscow. In the district of Novy Vostok, dozens of residential buildings lost power and water for hours on, with even street lights being turned off. Many Russians were actually trapped in elevators and panic started spreading across society. The reason for this panic was uncertainty. You see, this package from Ukraine did not come through drones or missiles. It was delivered through good old sabotage. Kremlin officials still haven't figured out what happened and who did it. But even then, this was nothing compared to what came next. Sirens started going off in the Russian region of Belgorod and residents started running for cover.
Ебаный рот. Пошлите в укрытие зайдем. Ебать! Куда? Ебать, пацаны, жестко пиздец. Охуеть.
As you can see from the clip on your screen, Russians were reintroduced to their old friend, darkness. The reason I say this is because Ukraine has targeted this region 3 different times in just last 2 weeks. Every single time, tens of thousands of Russians were left without power. But this time, Ukraine decided to go a step forward. This time, they targeted the main power plant. Nearly 500,000 residents were left without power because of Ukrainian strikes. But don't worry, because according to the regional Russian governor, the issues happened because of falling debris, not because of Ukrainian drones and Ukrainian strikes. The same governor also said that there's a possibility of a rolling blackout in the near future. But again, nothing to do with Ukraine, it's just Russia being Russia. But you see, Ukraine was still not done. That's because some Ukrainian drones also went looking for new friends. So, where do you go as a drone if you want to make friends? You go to a drone making factory. That's exactly what they did in Russian-occupied Donetsk. They visited a Russian factory that's responsible for production of FPV drones, attack drones, and even munitions. But unfortunately, I don't think the meeting went well, because the aftermath just looks horrifying.
Ебать! Виталий, это пизда.
Он разгорается, походу.
Some Russians could not figure out what was going on, but they decided to post it anyway.
Да, что происходит, ребята? Что происходит? Мама, да угомонись! Ладно.
Would you be surprised if I told you that Ukraine was still not done? And this final drone strike was actually a message to Putin, who has palaces in far-flung villages of Russia. That's because you know he has a habit of running away from Kremlin. Ukraine carried out a long-range strike, this time hitting the Basneft Ufa oil refinery that's located 1,400 kilometers or almost 1,000 miles from the Ukrainian border. This refinery is Russia's largest refining hub, made up of 3 different plants with a combined output of 24 million tons per year. This is Kremlin's one of the most important fuel centers, supplying the Russian army with gasoline, diesel, and other products. The report ignited a fire near the crude distillation unit, halting part of facility's operation. Each successful strike on such a deep rear infrastructure further weakens Russia's logistics and exposes the limit of its air defense network. And you know, for Russians, these refinery damages are adding up. Because people on Russian TV, the propagandists, are now begging for money from Europe as reparation for all the refineries that Ukraine has taken out. Listen to it yourself. It will be a comedic relief in this video.
Думаю, что настала пора.
I think it's time to tell the Europeans, Belgium, Euroclear, openly and publicly that, look, later, when Russia starts taking reparations from Ukraine for the damage it caused, the amount seized from Russian assets will be added to those reparations. The more you seize, the more reparations we'll claim from Ukraine later. Let them calculate their risks and wonder where we'll get the money from.
Больше потом мы с Украины этих самых репараций возьмем. И пусть они...
In the end, we'll take property, opera and ballet theater in Odessa, or whatever else.
Деньги будем брать, в конце концов будем брать имущество, оперный театр.
Why would we pay for what's already ours?
Нам платить за то, что это так наше.
And what reparations could Ukraine pay?
Belgium will pay. France will pay. The Netherlands too. Well, we'll go after Belgium, France. We know perfectly well how this will end.
Понимаем прекрасно.
We'll pursue it at a military tribunal.
Вот.
Yes, in The Hague, in Donetsk.
В Донецком.
That's all I have for you guys today. If you like these updates, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below. We're trying to hit 2 million subscribers before the end of the year.